In 2004, software developer Dave Weiner and journalist Christopher Lydon were not trying to invent a new industry. They were trying to solve a simple problem. How do you automatically deliver audio over the internet to people who actually want it? The answer wasn't a social network or an app. It wasn't a recommendation engine or a billion-dollar platform. It was an open web standard called RSS. On paper, RSS, really simple syndication, is almost disappointingly ordinary. It is simply a machine-readable file that tells computers when new content has been published. But that ordinary piece of technology became the foundation of modern podcasting. Publish once, distribute everywhere. It was a deceptively simple idea that changed the internet. For the first time, creators could publish audio independently, while listeners could subscribe once and automatically receive every new episode in the app of their choice. No platform had to approve the content. No algorithm decided who deserved to be heard. And no company owned the relationship between creator and audience. Podcasting wasn't built on a platform. It was built on a protocol.
This is Into the Podverse with Tony Doe. Podcast innovations, challenges, opportunities, and culture from an African perspective.
More than 2 decades later, podcasting has become a global industry worth billions. Studios have been built, media companies have emerged, independent creators have built careers. Governments, universities, churches, brands, and journalists all use podcasts to tell stories and reach audiences. Yet somewhere along the way, we stopped teaching the very thing that made podcasting possible. Recently, I met someone who proudly described themselves as a podcaster. They had an audience. They produced regular content. They were doing everything today's creator economy tells you to do. Then I mentioned RSS. They had never heard the term before. It's not that they didn't understand it. They had never heard of the term RSS before.
What?
I wasn't amused, but it also showed me something. We're creating more podcast content than ever before, but perhaps fewer people understand the technology that makes podcasting unique. So let's fix that. Imagine you've written a book. Would you print separate copies for every bookstore in the world? One for Lagos, another for London, another for New York, and maybe one for Johannesburg? Of course not. You'd give the master copy to a distributor, and every bookstore would know where to get it. That's essentially how podcasting works. When you upload an episode to a podcast hosting company, the audio doesn't magically appear on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and so on. Instead, your hosting platform updates your RSS feed. Think of your RSS feed as your podcast's permanent mailing address or master catalog. Every episode you've ever published, your artwork, your title, your show description, and other important information live inside that feed. Podcast apps don't store your podcast. They simply check your RSS feed at regular intervals. When they notice a new episode has been added, they automatically display it for listeners. If someone subscribes to your show, they're not subscribing to Spotify or Apple per se. They're subscribing to updates from your RSS feed. That's why you publish once, yet your episode appears across dozens of listening platforms. One update, one feed, hundreds of destinations. It's an incredibly elegant system. Better still, it is open. No one owns RSS. No single company can wake up tomorrow and decide RSS no longer exists. If you decide to move from one hosting provider to another, your RSS feed can usually move with you. Done correctly, your listeners don't have to subscribe all over again. Their podcast app simply follows the new address behind the scenes. Think about how unusual that is in today's internet. On most social platforms, your audience belongs to the platform. Instagram owns your followers. TikTok controls your reach. YouTube decides what gets recommended. Even Spotify, despite being one of the world's biggest podcast platforms, is only one destination among many. Spotify is not podcasting. It is a podcast app, albeit a very influential one. Podcasting itself is much bigger than any single company because it was designed around an open standard, not a closed ecosystem. And that's a distinction more creators need to understand. Today, many people discover podcasting through video. They start with TikTok, YouTube, or Spotify for creators. They learn how to record, edit, design thumbnails, and promote clips. Those are valuable skills. But podcasting is more than that production. It is infrastructure. Knowing how to record is important. Knowing how your show reaches listeners is equally as important. Because one day you want to change hosting providers. Submit your show to a new directory, troubleshoot distribution problems, understand analytics, or protect ownership of your work. When that day comes, RSS stops being an obscure technical acronym and becomes one of the most important tools in your entire podcasting journey. It's not gatekeeping. We don't do that here. It's about preserving knowledge. Every profession has fundamentals. A photographer eventually learns lenses. A writer learns editing. A filmmaker learns post-production. Podcasters should understand RSS. Not because they will work with it every day, but because it's the foundation beneath everything they create. Technology will continue to change. Platforms will come and go. Algorithms will evolve. Artificial intelligence will reshape how content is discovered. But for more than 20 years, RSS has done exactly what it was designed to do. Connect creators directly with listeners through reliable open distribution. Perhaps that's why it remains one of the internet's greatest inventions. Largely invincible, often overlooked, yet still carrying millions of voices around the world every single day. You see, the most important technologies are often the ones we never notice. Until we forget they exist.
Yeah, I'm back, baby. ElDee the Dawn. Yo.
After almost 2 years of silence, ElDee the Dawn is back behind the microphone. If you've been around podcasting for a while, you'll probably remember Nigerian American. Long before podcasts became fashionable in Nigeria, ElDee was using the medium to have thoughtful conversations about identity, culture, technology, business, and what it means to live between two worlds. Now he's returned with a new episode titled The Biggest Lie We Tell About Creativity. It's an interesting choice for a comeback. Instead of announcing a new season with celebrity guests or big production changes, he chose to explore an idea. He asks a question that's becoming increasingly relevant in the age of artificial intelligence. Have human beings ever really created anything completely original? He argues that creativity has always been built on what came before. Every song, every invention, every piece of art, every story borrows from something else. The real conversation isn't whether AI can create. It's where we draw the line between inspiration, influence, and imitation. And perhaps the most encouraging part of his return is what happened next. It wasn't just one comeback episode. Within days, another episode followed. The Olodo Economy, where he examines how societies become shaped by the behaviors they reward, using a popular Nigerian conversation as a starting point for a much bigger discussion about education, incentives, politics, and culture. That's a good sign, you see, because it suggests Nigerian American isn't simply making a nostalgic appearance. It may be back for good. And there's also a lesson here for every podcaster. Success in podcasting isn't always about publishing every week without fail. Sometimes creators step away, life changes, it happens, priorities shift. But if you've built trust with your audience and still have something meaningful to say, there's always room to return. Podcasting has a long memory. For newer creators, ElDee's comeback is also a reminder that substance never goes out of style. Trends come and go, algorithms change, platforms rise and fall. But thoughtful conversations, those tend to age remarkably well. Welcome back, ElDee, and here's hoping this marks the beginning of a new chapter for one of Nigerian podcasting's early pioneers.
Clap on the hand and miss a clap on the hand. Number one, I be the champion. None of them fit the pose in the competition.
So I got asked this question last week.
Hi Tony, how do I grow my Apple Podcast downloads? Most of my people always use Spotify. What advice do you think I can use to get more Apple Podcast users to download and listen on Apple Podcasts?
That's a very good question, and it's one many podcasters outside North America struggle with. In Nigeria, for instance, Spotify is the default podcast app because it's familiar and many people already use it for music. Apple Podcasts, on the other hand, tends to have a smaller but often very loyal audience, especially among iPhone users. Now, rather than trying to convert everyone, I'd focus on making it ridiculously easy for iPhone users to listen on Apple Podcasts. How? Whenever you promote an episode, include both your Spotify and Apple Podcast links, not just the Spotify one. Occasionally, say if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to follow, rate, and review the show. Ask your iPhone users specifically to help you grow the Apple audience. People respond better when they're given a clear assignment. Encourage guests to share the Apple Podcast links as well, especially if they have an iPhone-heavy audience. And don't underestimate ratings and reviews. They still play a role in discoverability within Apple's ecosystem. I hope this helps. If you've enjoyed this episode and believe podcasting deserves a stronger future in Nigeria, here is one small way you can help. I'm building the Nigerian Podcast Index. It's an independent public record of Nigerian podcasts that helps creators get discovered, supports researchers and brands with reliable data, and preserves our stories for the future. It's a community project, and it only grows because people like you believe in it. If you'd like to support the work, you'll find a link in the show notes. Whether it's a donation, or sharing the project with your network, or encouraging podcasters to submit their shows, every bit makes a difference. Together, we're not just making podcasts easier to find, we're helping build the infrastructure for Nigerian podcasting. Thank you for being part of the journey. Every podcast has a story. Every creator faces challenges. Thanks for joining Into the Podverse, where we turn opportunity into growth. Until next time, keep raising the bar.